What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Nicey Chunga Benny. I'm here with my co-host, Greg King.
What's good, everybody?
And you're listening to the Ball Fake Podcast. Welcome back to another episode. It's now episode 25. If you're new to our YouTube channel, make sure to like and subscribe, turn on post notifications, and give us a nice little review in the comments section. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure to also give us a nice review on that platform as well. We respond back to all you guys' comments and feedback and everything. But as for today's video, we're going to talk about 4 NBA players that will be traded by the March 25th deadline. Now, before we hop into that, I have a quick disclaimer. Bradley Beal and Zach LaVine will not be included in this video just because we feel like these are two guys who kind of have to force their way out of their situations in order for them to be traded. Now, before we start today's video, I want to give a quick shout out to our subscriber of the day. Shout out our boy Kyle Nicholson. Appreciate you liking and subscribing, turn on post notification, and just being here and watching every single video. Now, as for today's video, I'm going to start with JJ Redick. Now, we all know JJ Redick, he's a sniper from 3. You know, he's had a bit of a rocky season this year. This is probably his worst shooting season overall in his entire duration of his NBA career. Last time I checked, he was shooting 29% from 3. This may have possibly changed, I'm not sure. But overall, he's in a bit of an awkward situation. You know, the offense, it seems very imbalanced. We all know the New Orleans Pelicans, they run their offense through Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. Now, with that being said, these are two guys who are gonna combine for nearly 40 to possibly 50 shots on a nightly basis. Now, with that being said, it kind of hurts Redick just because the lack of ball movement has been a very big problem. I think this has to do with Stan Van Gundy placing Lonzo Ball as a 3-and-D guy, kind of spacing him out in the corners instead of allowing him to bring the ball up the floor and kind of operate the offense the way that he should be doing. And that kind of, you know what I'm saying, becomes a cancer to the team overall because, you know, you have guys like Eric Bledsoe who are trying to get theirs, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and then other role players who would also like to have, you know what I'm saying, shots and opportunities to be successful playing for the Pelicans. Now, I think another thing too is the fact that they haven't really ran too many sets for Redick. That's kind of, you know, affected him to an extent. But overall, this entire team, it's built together very weirdly. It's like Redick is your only shooter. You don't really utilize him, and it's just a big, messy situation. But what are your thoughts and opinions on JJ Redick's play this season and how you feel about him possibly being traded?
Yeah, I think trading him would be a good idea just because I don't see him in their long-term future with him being that old and everything, and him not being in the offense and him not getting involved like they thought they were going to involve him. And I think, like you said, you said it right on the head, that they don't move the ball. Everything is through Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. So I think they should move on to JJ Redick, and I think that he should go to a contending team that needs shooting, a veteran leader and a veteran shooter who can stretch the floor and really help them on the offensive end. So any contending team like the Sixers or the Bucks or the Clippers or the Lakers or the Nets, any of those teams, maybe even the Celtics, any of those teams, I think he would fit really well on.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to break down the teams that I heard that were interested in him, which are the Brooklyn Nets, Philadelphia 76ers, and the Boston Celtics. Now, to begin with Brooklyn, I don't think this really would work. You know, Brooklyn, we already know, they have enough offense. The offense isn't the problem in Brooklyn. It's all about their defense. Now, acquiring an aging JJ Redick, who's already an expiring contract, would make no sense because he doesn't fix your issues as a team overall. Now, with that being said, I think a better fit would possibly be the Sixers or the Boston Celtics. Now, the Sixers is a good fit because, you know, he's already played for their organization. He knows how, you know what I'm saying, the offense and everything runs well. And he's great friends with Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and the rest of those guys. So I think that would be a decent spot for him. But the only thing is the Sixers have enough shooting. Now, they have guys like Seth Curry, Shake Milton, and, you know what I'm saying, other role players who bring in shooting, but also they're able to play in pick and roll, create shots for everyone, and most importantly, play defense, which is something that JJ Redick doesn't bring to the table. So it wouldn't make much sense for Philadelphia to trade key players like that for a JJ Redick, knowing that he's not going to be as effective on the defensive end, and he's having one of the worst shooting seasons in his NBA career. So I don't think the Sixers will pull the plug on that. But the Boston Celtics, on the other hand, it's a team we know they seem like they've been 1-2 pieces away from a title for the past 2 to 3 seasons. And I think adding JJ Redick, a veteran guard, you know, with a ton of playoff experience, and somebody who's just good for you offensively, brings scoring, I think he would fit best in Boston out of all the teams that, you know, are interested in acquiring JJ Redick. But
I totally agree. It'll take the pressure off of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Sometimes they can dish it off to him and he can knock down a clutch bucket, or if Jason Tatum's drawing double teams or anything like that, he can kick it out to JJ Redick. So I think adding him, and they won't hurt on the defensive end either. They have enough defensive players. So I think adding JJ Redick would be a good fit for Boston.
Right. Now, for our next player, we're going to break down Kyle Lowry. Now, we all know Lowry, he's had a very productive season. You know, his team record hasn't really shown for it, but this is a guy who's putting up all-star caliber numbers. He's currently averaging 17, 6, and 7, shooting 41% from the field, 36% from 3. He's 7th in the NBA in assists, but offensively, Toronto has not been good at overall. Now, they rank 21st in turnovers, and they're only putting up 111 points a game. So offensively, they've done a good job sharing the ball, but they haven't done a good job putting the ball in the basket or valuing possessions, because they've been turning the ball so much. Turning the ball over so much. But I mean, they do rank 11th in assists in the entire NBA, and part of that is because, you know, you have Kyle Lowry, who's one of the best playmakers in the NBA. Like I stated, he's 7th in the NBA in assists, but overall the fit just hasn't worked. You know, he kind of offensively, it's very awkward with him and Van Vliet in the backcourt. Defensively, they've been able to hold their own, but I think it's safe to say that, you know, Kyle Lowry, it's best that he just leaves that organization and moves on to bigger and better things. Now, what are your opinions on Kyle Lowry's trade value and everything that, you know, has just been going on with him this past season?
Yeah, I think he's been playing really well. I really liked it. I love his play. I love how he plays. He plays like a true Philly guy. That's where he's from. And I really would like to see him go to a contending team. And the two teams I wrote down was the Clippers and maybe the Sixers. The Clippers, obviously, we know they need a point guard. And I think having Lowry would take the pressure off of Paul George and Kawhi, and they wouldn't have to do so much. And I think Lowry, with his playmaking ability, can get everybody involved and really get everybody in the right spot. But also, they won't lose anything on the defensive end either, because Kyle Lowry definitely gets after it on the defensive end. He takes a lot of charges. He gets right up on you on the perimeter and everything. But for the Sixers, I think it's interesting if they're willing to do it. If they're willing to give up Tyrese Maxey, Thibault, and a first round or second round pick. But I like the Sixers because I think it will have obviously Kyle Lowry at the point guard position and move Ben Simmons to his natural point forward position, and I think that it would spread the floor. It would help out It would help out the Sixers more if they had Kyle Lowry, a point guard, a natural point guard who's gonna play make and who has the ability to score, and then move Ben Simmons down to that point forward position where he doesn't have to feel like he has to do so much for the Sixers.
See, I feel like the Philadelphia 76ers, it's a decent fit for him. My only thing is, I don't think Philly wants to give up multiple assets for a veteran on an expiring contract. We have to sit here and think, does Kyle Lowry really make them too much better? You know, especially if you're going to give up guys like, I think the trade package that I saw was Tony Bradley, Danny Green, Seth Curry, and a 2021 first round pick. If I'm the Philadelphia 76ers, I don't think I pull that plug. But if I'm a team like the Los Angeles Clippers or the Dallas Mavericks, I possibly think about it. Now, LA, for example, this is a roster that's well-rounded. You know, they're in need of a playmaker. Also, someone who can take the pressure off of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George when it comes to, you know what I'm saying, just carrying the offense, whether it's scoring, playmaking, or just making sure everybody's in the right position offensively. Now, that trade package would include guys like Patrick Beverley, Marcus Morris, and a guy, I don't know this guy's name, I don't know how to pronounce it, Mfiondu Kabengele, whatever it is, man. But if I'm Toronto, I do not make this trade because, for one, it doesn't really fix any of your problems. You're a team that's in need of an alpha scorer. Marcus Morris is not that, and Patrick Beverley certainly isn't that. And on top of that, is Patrick Beverley going to be somebody who can mesh well with Fred VanVleet? I don't think so. Now, if I'm the Dallas Mavericks, I think this is probably the best trade for both sides. For one, we already know Luka, he's very ball dominant, but the thing is Kyle Lowry would make up for Luka's weaknesses, which is 3-point shooting, and on top of that, Kyle Lowry, he could be your second or third option, So I just feel like that's a better destination for Kyle Lowry, and that trade package would include the Mavs receiving Kyle Lowry, obviously, and the Toronto Raptors receiving Tim Hardaway Jr., Maxi Kleber, and Jalen Brunson. Now, Kleber, he comes in, he helps with the issues in the post. We already seen this season, Aaron Baines has not been able to be very productive offensively or defensively. Tim Hardaway Jr., he comes in, he adds shot making. This Toronto Raptors have one of the least field goals made in the entire NBA this season, so that's an area where you also improve. And then Jalen Brunson, he's a guy that's going to come in, fulfill whatever role he's given, and he's just a do-it-all type of point guard. But do you have any final comments on that trade package before we move on to our next player?
I had the Mavs down too. I was just curious about how Luka and Lowry would work, but yeah, I thought the Mavs should really trade more for a wing guy because they are lacking on the wings. But I think Kyle Lowry could come in and hold the void for a little bit.
The thing is, I just feel like Kyle Lowry, somebody who can take the pressure off of Luka from the point guard position is more of a need, in my opinion, for Dallas, rather than a wing player. But the thing is, Luka needs to get better playing off ball. That's his only problem. But I think adding Kyle Lowry, that would help him get better shots off ball, and hopefully it'll translate to his 3-point percentage increasing. But that's that. We're going to move on with Andre Drummond. Now, Drummond, he's had an all-star caliber-like season. He's been a monster in the front court. He's currently averaging a double-double with 18 points per game, 14 rebounds. And he's been a big part of Cleveland's success this season, but he's been on the trade block due to the situation. Cleveland, we all know he won't be there long-term just because his age, it doesn't really fit with the timeline of those young players like Colin Sexton, Darius Garland, and now Jarrett Allen. But another thing, too, he wouldn't pair well with Jarrett Allen. They obviously picked up Allen in that James Harden trade because they don't want Andre Drummond to be there long term, because it wouldn't make sense to pay him top dollar while also having Kevin Love. And you guys at best, you'll probably be a first round seed, an 8th seed in the first round getting bounced. So it doesn't make sense to pay a guy when you're not going to win deep into the playoffs and everything. But the Brooklyn Nets, they've been a team that's shown interest, and I think he's a much better fit there just because, Drummond, he would come in, he'd be a defensive presence, he'd help on the boards, bring size, toughness, and shot blocking. He's pretty good offensively as far as being a lob threat in the pick and roll and stuff like that. He has post moves somewhat. His free throw percentage has improved, so you can kind of count on him slightly in late game situations. And on top of that, he leads the NBA in defensive win shares at 1.4 and second in defensive rating, which is 100.4. So this is a guy he's going to come in, he's going to be an immediate impact player, man. The only thing is he's not going to be the one deciding factor that's going to help you entirely. Brooklyn still needs to go out and get more defensive players and guys who, can operate on the wings and everything. But what's your opinion on Andre Drummond?
Yeah, Drummond's been playing so well. He's been eating this season. But my only concern about the Nets, I love the fit. I definitely do love the fit. It's just the money. I'm going to talk about the money side because, he is making $25 million or $28 million this season. So it's going to be hard for the Nets to really trade for him. The only way they're going to get him is a buyout. And if people don't understand what a buyout situation in the NBA is, it's a mutual agreement between the organization and the player. And the player has to forego some of his salary. I don't know how much. It depends on what they agree on. And that's how they get bought out of that team. So will Drummond, who's a guy that wants to get paid and wants to get paid be a high paid center in this league, does he want to forego some of his money to join the Brooklyn Nets? We don't know. That's all on him, but it's going to be kind of hard for the Nets to acquire him. Another team I put down was the Clippers. I thought the Clippers, they could use help in the Clippers or the Mavs. I know the Mavs have really struggled with rebounding this year, but I also think the Clippers would help because they could have better rim protection. I think Drummond can bring that presence for them to bring that toughness on that team.
Right. But we're going to move on to our last player that we're going to talk about, which is Demar Derozan. Now, Derozan, he's also another guy who's been in a very awkward situation. In San Antonio, they've been kind of one of the most confusing teams, in my opinion, these last couple of years, just because they have a ton of young players mixed in with old players, and they've been trying to like push to make the playoffs as an 8 seed while also trying to develop their young core. In my opinion, you kind of have to pick one or the other because it doesn't really make sense to try to do both because the results aren't going to be really beneficial. Now, overall, DeRozan's play style, it doesn't really fit the system. His numbers are slightly declining. He gets in the way of Murray, Lonnie Walker, and Keldon Johnson and everybody, and it just is a very ugly fit overall. But I mean, what are your thoughts on DeMar DeRozan with the San Antonio Spurs so far?
Yeah, I don't like the fit at all. I think he's really ball dominant. I mean, he can't play make, he can't share the ball. He does have 6 assists, but I just with the system, I think he's hurting some of the young guys in their development. So I think moving on and going to a contending team will help a contending team especially at his age, a guy who can put the ball in the hoop. I think a team like the Heat, if they're willing to get up their young assets, him, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo, that would be huge for the Heat to bring another wing presence who can score and take the pressure off of Jimmy Butler sometimes. And maybe the Lakers, if the Lakers are willing to give up some of their assets, but I do not see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, for Miami's sake, I mean, he'd be a decent fit. He'd be another offensive threat, adds versatility offensively. But the Spurs, that package, I'm not sure if Miami is willing to give up so much for a guy like DeMar DeRozan. The package that I saw earlier, it was Tyler Hero, Andre Iguodala, Kelly Olynyk, and a 2025 first-round pick. Now, the question is Miami willing to move on from guys like Tyler Hero, who have shown success in the postseason, and also give up, a first-round pick and your veteran players that were very successful for your team last year? Which I would feel like they probably wouldn't be willing to do so much for him. Because if you weren't willing to give up Tyler Hero for James Harden, you sure as hell aren't going to be willing to give him up for a guy like DeMar DeRozan. Now, speaking on the Lakers, I think that's a good fit. But another thing, too, are the Lakers willing to give up their multiple assets for a guy like DeMar DeRozan? That package, it would probably include people like Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, KCP, and a 2025 first-round pick. And I just personally cannot see that happening. Now, the team that I do feel like could possibly make a deal with the San Antonio Spurs to acquire DeMar DeRozan is the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers, they have a nice roster. He'd fit perfectly there. They need an alpha scorer guard-wise, and they would match up well with those top teams in the East. But the only thing is, are you willing to give up Miles Turner, Doug McDermott, TJ McConnell, and a 2025 first-round pick in exchange for DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge? And if I'm the San Antonio Spurs, I'd pull the plug on this trade immediately. The question is Indiana willing to do that?
Pacers, yeah. I don't think the Pacers would do that just because Miles Turner's playing really well this season and he brings a great rim protection for that team to offset Sabonis. So I don't see that trade happening, but if it does, that would be huge for the Spurs.
And LaMarcus Aldridge, he's been a shell of himself, but he has still been very productive. And I feel like that is somebody who could fit well with that Indiana offense, and they wouldn't really rely too much on him defensively. As long as he's able to hold his own somewhat, I don't think it would be a disaster. But guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode with me and Greg. It's now episode 25 of the Ball Fake Podcast. If you're new to our channel, make sure to like and subscribe, turn on post notifications. But before you guys leave, I have a quick announcement to make. I want to start a new movement with our platform and our brand and everything. I feel like this hashtag would help not only, build our brand, but it would just, it's something fun and something catchy that we feel like would, benefit our brand and our podcast overall. Now, I want you guys to go in the comment section before you guys leave and leave a comment saying hashtag Let's Go Viral. I feel like that's a hashtag that, fits well with our company and everything. And we just want to, do a little bit more and kind of separate ourselves from everybody else. I feel like that's a pretty good hashtag. So if you guys could leave hashtag Let's Go Viral in the comment section, we'd greatly appreciate that. But outside of that, it's your boy Nicely Chunga Benny. I'm here with my co-host Greg King, and we out.